The night started with wires, not with danger. I was sitting on the floor of my best friend Beau's living room in Brooklyn, surrounded by the open case of his gaming PC. The air smelled like warm dust, old pizza, and the sharp bite of electronics. My tools were spread out beside me, little silver soldiers lined up in a row. On the coffee table, my laptop ran a monitor on the home network, just in case. That was when I saw it. A new Bluetooth signal popped up on the screen. Strong. Close. Pushing hard against the secure router I had installed last month. The signal spike flashed red. Someone was trying to connect from the hallway just outside the apartment door. At first, I thought it was a neighbor being lazy with a speaker. Then I heard the voice. "You think you can just ghost me, Joe? After what I have?" The voice was sharp and nasal, wrapped tight with anger and panic. I knew that voice. Darian Hill. The guy Josephine had broken up with 3 months ago. The guy the first had never liked, even when she pretended everything was fine. "Darian, leave." Josephine's voice came next. Her voice was usually smooth and calm, the way she sounded when she fixed big messes for rich clients in Manhattan. But right now, there was a crack in it, a tiny break. I could hear it because I had been listening to her talk since I was 19. "I'm visiting my brother. You're stalking me." "I'm not stalking. I'm negotiating." I heard the rustle of fabric, the sound of someone shifting close to the wall. "One click, Joe. That's all it takes. The pictures from Cabo. The emails about the merger. I upload them and your firm is finished. You're finished." On my screen, the signal from his phone hit the network again. He was not bluffing. He was already talking to some remote server. Getting ready. Getting brave. I wiped the gray thermal paste off my fingers onto a rag and stood up. I did not rush. Rushing makes you stupid. My heart was beating fast, but my head was clear. CS-10 tactical calm, Beau called it, the way I got before a big security job. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. Darian stood in the hallway with his phone raised like a weapon. Josephine was pressed back against the wall, her trench coat damp from the rain outside, her dark hair sticking slightly to her cheek. Her eyes were wide and bright, full of anger and fear. She did not look like the perfect, untouchable woman I had watched from a distance for 10 years. She looked cornered, and I hated that. "Phone," I said. My voice came out low and flat. Darian jerked his head toward me. "Who the hell are you?" "Kieran," I said. "Beau's friend. The one who built this network." "You're on a private system, Darian. Unauthorized access is a crime, and what you're doing right now is called extortion." He scoffed. "Go back to your video games, man." I stepped between them, placing my body right in his line of sight. I did not push him. I did not yell. I just filled the space. "I'm recording the signal your phone is sending," I said. "Right now. Your device ID, your location, your attempt to upload stolen files. Walk away, or I send these logs to a detective I know at NYPD Cybercrimes. He loves easy cases." It was not all true, but it was true enough, and he did not know the difference. Darian's eyes flicked from my face to Josephine's, back to the phone in his hand. The power in his posture started to leak away. Without an audience, he looked smaller. "This doesn't concern you," he muttered. "Josephine concerns me," I said. That was the first time I said it out loud. He swallowed, jaw tight. "Check your email, Joe. Clock's ticking." He shoved the phone into his pocket, turned, and stalked down the hall toward the elevator. I watched him until the doors closed, and I heard the soft grind of the lift moving away. Only then did I turn back to her. Josephine was trying to pull herself together. She smoothed her coat with shaky hands, like she could press her fear flat. The tremble in her fingers was tiny, but I saw it. I always saw the cracks in systems. Tonight, the system was her. "Kieran," she breathed. "I didn't know you were here. Is Beau home?" Quote. "Beau ran out to get beer," I said. "You okay?" It was a stupid question. She was not okay. Up close, I could see the shadows under her eyes, the strain around her mouth. This blackmail had not started tonight. It had been chewing on her for a while. "He's not bluffing, is he?" I asked. She shook her head once, a sharp, broken movement. "No, he has files. Personal ones, work ones." Her voice dropped. "If he sends them, my clients, my firm, my reputation, all gone." She lifted her phone with stiff fingers and unlocked it. She pulled up an email and held it toward me. The subject line hit me like a punch. Insurance. There was a timer on a scheduled send. In the body, one simple line from Darian. "If you involve police or your firm, the files go public." A dead man's switch. The kind of thing a coward sets up so he can feel brave. I took out my own phone and snapped a photo of the screen. Then I had her forward the email to a burner address I controlled. The details mattered. Timestamps mattered. Proof mattered. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "We do this right. First, we stop that timer. Then, we go to the cops with backup." She stared at me like I had just spoken another language. "I promise to keep our secret safe if you help me destroy his leverage," she whispered. "Can you do that? Can you make the files disappear?" She stepped closer when she said it, close enough that I could smell the rain in her hair and the soft vanilla of her perfume, close enough that I had to fight the urge to reach out and touch her. Josephine Collins, my best friend's older sister, the woman I had crushed on since college, now standing in front of me, asking me to step into the dark with her. She was not just asking for tech support, she was asking me to cross a line. I looked down at her hand. It was tucked into her pocket, but I could still see the tremble in her wrist. "Come inside," I said. "Turn off your phone." I stepped back, holding the door open for her. She walked past me into the apartment without another word. That was how it started. Not with a kiss, not with a date, but with a promise in a dim hallway and a secret only we shared. My place was nothing like hers. 3 days later, Josephine stood in the middle of my Brooklyn loft, holding a paper cup of coffee in both hands like it was the only warm thing in the room. The loft used to be part of a warehouse. The ceilings were high, and the brick walls were dark. Server racks lined one side, silent and steady, lights blinking like small stars in the dim light. "It's dark," she said quietly. "Light is interference," I answered, pulling a metal chair out for her. "Sit, we need to triage." I needed her to hear it in my voice. This was not a favor. This was an operation. "I need access to everything, Joe," I said. "Your cloud accounts, email, laptop, phone. If Darian has a backdoor into your life, I have to find it." She hesitated. Josephine Collins was used to running rooms, not handing over control. She took a small breath, shoulders tight. "There are photos," she said, her jaw clenched. "Personal ones. From when we were together." I kept my eyes on the screen and not on her face. I started typing commands, pulling up the tools I'd need. "I'm not here to look at content," I said. "I'm looking at paths, timestamps, IP addresses. I don't care what you're wearing, I care who accessed it and from where." That was not completely true. The idea of Darian scrolling through pieces of her made my stomach twist in a cold, hard knot. But if I let myself feel that right now, I'd be useless. "Okay," she whispered. She slid her phone across the desk. It was still warm from her hand. I plugged it into my system. "I'm going to clone your device," I said. "It'll take about an hour. While that runs, we need to talk about your physical security." He showed up at Bo's place. "That means he's tracking you somehow." "I turned off Find My Friends," she said quickly. "That's cute," I muttered, "but he's probably using something better." "A mirror app. Or he cloned your SIM. Did you ever leave your phone with him unlocked?" She stared out at the rain on the big warehouse windows. "We lived together for 6 months," she said. "He knew my passcode." I typed faster, fingers moving on instinct. The cloned image finished. I dug into the installed apps, the network activity, the hidden processes. A few minutes later, I saw it. A fake system update that did not match the OS version. "Got you?" I said under my breath. "He has a mirror app running in the background. It sends your texts in real time to his device." She made a small sound, like someone had just punched the air out of her. "This is good news," I said, turning my chair halfway toward her. "It means he's been sloppy. And it means now We can use this. We control what he sees. I stood and walked over to where she sat. I wanted to put a hand on her shoulder, to ground her, but my hands stayed in my pockets. The space between us felt charged, not just with fear, but with something else I did not want to name yet. "You're safe here," I said. "This network is air-gapped. Nothing gets in or out unless I let it." She looked up at me, eyes brighter, sharper. The panic was still there, but it was starting to make room for something more familiar in her face. Focus. "So we're in a bunker," she said, a tiny tired smile tugging at her mouth. "We're in a fortress," I corrected, "and we're going to burn his leverage to the ground." After that, life fell into a strange rhythm. Josephine still went to work during the day. She had a huge charity gala coming up, the biggest event of her year. But at night, she came to my loft. She brought takeout in paper bags, setting it on my counter like we had been doing this for years. Thai. Indian. Things with spice and heat I usually forgot to order for myself. I would be at my desk, 3 monitors glowing in the dark, tracing Darian's online steps. She would kick off her heels, curl her feet under her on my old couch, and watch me work while she answered messages on her laptop. I learned small things about her that no blackmail file could ever show. She drank tea when she was stressed and whiskey when she was angry. She hated quiet, but she hated pointless noise even more. She listened. When I explained a firewall or a server, she did not pretend to understand. She asked until she did. One Tuesday night, she was pacing behind me while I ran a brute force attack on an encrypted zip file I had found in a cloud folder linked to Darian. "This is taking too long," she said, rubbing her left temple. "The gala is in 10 days. If he releases anything before the donors sign, I am done." "He won't," I said, eyes on the code. "He's waiting for maximum drama. He likes to watch you sweat." "I am sweating, Kieran." I turned my chair. She was wearing a silk blouse and a pencil skirt from work, but her shoulders were tight, and her eyes were dull with the start of a migraine. I stood up, crossed to the tiny kitchen, filled a glass with water, and grabbed the bottle of ibuprofen. I set both down on the coaster beside her, without a word. She stared at the pills, then at me. "How did you know?" she asked. "You rub your left temple when it starts," I said, "and your left eye squints a little. You've been doing it all night." She just looked at me for a long moment, the kind of look that made it hard to breathe. "You notice everything, don't you?" she said softly. "It's my job," I answered. "Patterns, anomalies." "I'm an anomaly?" "You're the priority," I said before I could stop myself. The words hung there between us. She took a small step closer. We were close enough now that I could see the tiny freckles on her nose, the faint scar on her chin she always covered with makeup. I could smell the soft vanilla again, warm, familiar now. "Kieran," she said, voice low, "you've grown up." "I was always grown up, Joe," I said quietly. "You just never looked down." It was a risk, a line I could not take back. She held my gaze, really studying my face. The rough stubble on my jaw, the dark circles under my eyes, the stubborn set of my mouth. Something in her expression shifted. "I'm looking now," she whispered. Her hand lifted like she was about to touch my arm. I wanted her to. Badly. But not while she was scared and I was the only solid thing in the room. I took a half step back, a controlled retreat. "Drink the water," I said, my voice rough. "I found something in Darian's metadata. He's not doing this alone. He's using a server in New Jersey. I need you to authorize a quiet subpoena request. No one at the firm can know yet." The moment snapped like a thread. She straightened, back in work mode. "Show me," she said. We leaned over the screen together, shoulders almost touching, the air between us tight with both danger and something that felt a lot like want. The next hit did not come through a network. It came on my phone at the gym. I was on a treadmill, trying to burn off the frustration of another dead end, when an alert flashed on my screen. I had set a news watch on Josephine's name, just in case. A gossip blog had posted a blind item. No names. But anyone who knew her would know. Which high-flying crisis manager is about to face a crisis of her own? Rumor has it explicit emails from a certain Cabo trip are circling the dark web. I swore, grabbed my bag, and ran for the door. By the time I reached my building, Josephine was already in my loft. She had used the spare key I had given her for emergencies. She was standing by the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the gray city. "He saw us," she said, voice flat. "Who?" "The Post mentioned a younger tech bodyguard," she said. "Darian knows I'm with you. He knows you're helping." I dropped my bag and went straight to my desk. My fingers flew over the keys, pulling up the latest hits on my firewall. There it was. A failed intrusion attempt. He had tried to break into my system. He had failed. But it gave me what I needed. "This changes the threat profile," I said quietly. "He feels cornered. He's pushing harder." But he messed up. I saw the IP. He uploaded the blog tip from his home, not a proxy. I can trace him. "He's going to ruin me, Kieran," she said. "The gala is this weekend. If this explodes, I am done." "It won't," I said. "You can't promise that," she snapped. "You're good, but you're not a god. He still has the files." "I know where they are," I said. She stopped, eyes locked on mine. "What?" "The server in Jersey," I said. "I traced the connection. I can't hack a hard drive that's unplugged, but I can get to it." Her eyes widened. "You're not going to break into his house," she said. "No," I answered. "I'm going to do something better." I stepped closer to her, close enough to block the city behind her, close enough that her fear and hope both hit me at once. "I'm going to make him give it to me," I said. Josephine stared up at me like she was trying to decide if I was her best chance or her worst mistake. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "You could go to jail. You could lose your license, your whole career." "Because you asked me to keep your secret safe," I said. "That can't be the only reason." "It isn't," I admitted. Something in her eyes softened. She reached up and touched my face, her fingers cool and a little unsteady against my jaw. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. "Kieran," she whispered. I did not move away this time. I turned my head just enough and pressed a slow kiss into the center of her palm. "A promise," I murmured against her skin. "I've got you." She let out a breath that sounded like a sob and a laugh at the same time. "Okay," she said. "Okay." The plan was dangerous and simple. It counted on two things I knew to be true about Darian Hill. He was greedy. He thought he was smarter than everyone else. I built a fake identity, a rival PR broker, enough digital dust to make it look real. I sent him a message from a secure account, offering 50 grand for the files he had on Josephine. He answered in less than an hour. Of course he did. We agreed to meet the next day at noon in a crowded coffee shop in Midtown. Neutral ground. Cameras everywhere. People everywhere. Perfect. That night, the storm outside finally broke. The rain stopped beating on the windows, leaving the air heavy and thick. Inside the loft, the only sounds were the low hum of fans and the quiet tap of keys under my fingers. Josephine sat on my couch, wrapped in one of my old gray blankets. Her hair was loose. Her makeup was gone. She looked smaller and more real than she ever did in a polished office or at a charity event. "You don't have to go," she said, voice soft. "I do," I said without looking away from the code I was checking for the 100th time. "If I do this right, I walk out with the leverage gone and the evidence of his crimes secure. If I do nothing, he keeps his hand on your life." "I do, Kieran," she repeated. I looked up. She had let the blanket fall. She walked toward me, bare feet, almost silent on the concrete floor. Her eyes were clear in a way I had not seen in weeks. Afraid, yes, but steady too. "If this goes wrong tomorrow," she said, "I need you to hear something. And I need you to hear it when you can still walk away." "It won't go wrong," I said automatically. "Stop fixing for a second," she said. She reached for my hands. Her grip was small but firm. "Just listen." I stood up because she was pulling me to my feet. I was taller than her, but she did not step back. She closed the space between us until the toes of her feet touched mine. "Everyone asks about the merger files," she said, "or the press, or the clients, or the money. You asked about my migraine." My throat felt tight. "You saw me," she said. "Really saw me. Not just the story." She searched my face like she was reading code. "Prove it," she whispered. "Prove you're not just fixing a system." And then she kissed me. It was not careful. It was not soft. It was fear and whiskey and weeks of holding herself together now crashing into me. I froze for a second, not because I did not want it, but because I wanted it too much. I put my hands on her jaw, just enough to steady her, and lifted my mouth a breath away from hers. "Tell me to stop," I said, my voice low. She swallowed. Her eyes were wide and clear. Then she gave one slow, solid nod and pulled me back down to her. That was all I needed. I wrapped one arm around her waist and kissed her back with 10 years of quiet, wanting finally let off the leash. The edge of the desk bumped my hip. A hard drive rattled to the floor. For once, I did not care about the equipment. She broke the kiss first, resting her forehead against mine. Our breathing was uneven. Her hands fisted in the front of my t-shirt. "Tomorrow matters," she whispered, "but so do we." The part of my brain that normally counted risks tried to start up. I shut it down. For once, I let the system go dark. I reached over, hit the power button on the monitors, and watched the screens fade to black. I pulled the blinds over the big windows. Outside, the city kept shouting. Inside, the loft finally went quiet. Morning found us on the couch, both still in yesterday's clothes, with a cold cup of coffee sitting on the table in front of us. Her head had ended up on my shoulder. Our fingers were laced together like it was the easiest thing in the world. For the first time since this started, the panic in her eyes was not the first thing I saw when she looked at me. "You ready?" I asked. "No," she said honestly, "but I trust you." That would have to be enough. The coffee shop at noon was bright and unforgiving. Floor-to-ceiling windows, steel chairs. People in suits and jeans and hoodies, all holding their little paper cups and phones like shields. I sat at a corner table where I could see the door, the counter, and the street outside all at once. A cheap burner phone lay face down next to my own. On my wrist, under my sleeve, a watch camera recorded everything. At 12:05, Darian walked in. He was wearing a shiny suit that tried too hard. His hair was slicked back. He carried a worn leather bag like it was a prize. He scanned the room, looking for the fake broker he thought he was meeting. "Mr. Vane?" he asked, stopping at my table. "Hello, Darian," I said. His eyes narrowed. Recognition hit fast. "You," he said. "This is a setup." He grabbed his bag like he was going to bolt. "Sit down," I said, my voice calm but sharp, or I play the recording of our call to the officers in the unmarked car outside. He froze. Then he sat. "You're bluffing," he muttered. "I don't bluff," I said. "I verify." I slid a thin folder across the table. He opened it. Inside were printed screenshots of his own network activity. Timestamps. IP addresses. File names. "You logged into a dark web forum from your home Wi-Fi," I said. "You used your own connection to threaten to sell stolen files. That is intent to distribute stolen private property. Minimum 5 years if my friend at the DA's office is in a good mood." He tried to laugh, but it came out weak. "You think logs scare me?" he said. "I still have the drive. If I don't check in within an hour, a bot posts everything. You can't touch that." "Yes," I said. "I can." I pulled out my tablet and turned it slightly so he could see the screen. "I accessed your server 20 minutes ago," I said. "Using the credentials you kindly typed into the fake contract I sent you this morning. You thought you were signing a sales agreement. You were really installing a rootkit." His face went white. "I wiped the drive, Darian. I wiped the cloud backup. I wiped the local mirror. Your leverage is gone. But I made sure the evidence of your crime stayed." His mouth opened and closed like he could not find a file to run. "You can't," he whispered. "It's done," I said. "And I'm not the only one you have to answer to." I nodded toward the door. Josephine walked in. She was not hiding. She wore a sharp red suit that made every head in the shop turn. Her heels clicked on the floor like a countdown. Her shoulders were straight. Her chin was high. She did not look at me first. She looked through me, past me, straight at Darian. She reached our table and set a single sheet of paper down in front of him. "This is a restraining order," she said, her voice clear and steady. "And the start of a civil case for emotional distress and defamation. My lawyers filed it this morning. The officers outside are waiting to talk to you about the extortion attempt Kieran just recorded." Darian stared at the paper, then at me, then at her. The room around us hums with quiet conversations and coffee machines, but right here, everything felt focused and sharp. He did what scared men do. He grabbed his bag and ran. He ran straight out the door and straight into the waiting blue lights and uniforms on the street. Through the glass, we saw him get stopped, turned, handcuffed. Josephine let out a long breath. Her shoulders sagged just a little. I stood up. For a second, I wanted to wrap her up in my arms, but there were too many eyes and too many phones in the room. "Is it true?" she asked quietly. "Is it really gone?" "Every file," I said. "Everything he had, erased. The only thing left is the trail that proves what he did." She closed her eyes and opened them again. When she looked at me, there were tears she did not bother to hide. "Thank you," she whispered. "Standard operating procedure," I said, trying to sound light. "No," she said. "It's not." The gala came faster than I wanted it to. I was not a tux guy. I was a jeans and hoodie guy who spent more time with code than with people. But 2 days before the event, a courier showed up at my door with a garment bag and a handwritten note. "I need my security detail." "Josephine." So I put on the tux. When I checked myself in the mirror, I almost did not recognize the man looking back. The jacket fit. The tie was straight. I looked like someone who belonged in rooms I usually only saw in news feeds. The venue was the Metropolitan Museum. High stone steps, bright lights, cameras, cars pulling up with people who made more money in one phone call than I did all year. I stayed on the edge, just inside the entrance where I could see most of the floor. Old habit. Find the exits, watch the corners, count threats. Josephine was in the center of all of it. She wore a long black dress that moved like water when she walked. Her hair was up, a few soft pieces loose around her face. She was laughing with a group of donors, the sound light and easy. For the first time, I saw what she looked like when she was not carrying a secret like a weight. I kept my eyes moving. A man in a cheap tux drifted behind her, phone in his hand, angled low. I caught the reflection in a glass case before I saw him straight on. He lifted his phone, trying to get a shot under the bright lights. I stepped forward, smooth and quiet, and put myself between his camera and her. "No recording in here," I said, low enough for only him to hear. He tried to play dumb. "I am just texting," he said. I turned my wrist so he could see the security badge the event staff had given me. I held my own phone up, screen dark, but my posture said I could make a call he would not like. "Put it away," I said. "Or I walk you to the museum security desk and we talk to them together." His eyes flicked past me. 2 real guards had already noticed and were watching us. The man swallowed, shoved his phone into his pocket, and faded into the crowd. Josephine never stopped her sentence. Never turned. Never broke. But when she walked past me a minute later, her fingers brushed against my wrist. A light touch. A silent thank you. I spotted Bo across the room holding 2 beers like he had found the only normal thing at this rich party. His eyes widened when he saw me in a tux. "Dude," he said, walking over, "you clean up nice. Since when do you work security?" "Something like that," I said. He glanced at Josephine in the middle of the room. She was glowing. There was no other word for it. "She looks happy," he said. "I have not seen her like that in years." I followed his gaze. As if she felt it, Josephine turned. Her eyes scanned the room, moving over suits and gowns and cameras, and landed straight on me. She smiled. Not the practiced, pretty smile she used for clients. A real one, soft and bright and sure. "Yeah," I said, "she does." She excused herself from her group and started walking toward us like she had a clear target. Bo watched her approach, then looked at me, then looked back at her. "Oh," he said. Then his eyes went wide. "Oh." Josephine stopped in front of us. "Give us a minute, little brother," she said. He looked between us. He saw the way she stood close to me, the way I angled my body toward her without thinking, the way her hand relaxed as soon as she was near. He grinned, clapped me on the shoulder, and backed away. "I will be at the bar," he said. "Try not to crash the servers, man." Josephine stepped into the space he left. The music and voices rolled around us, but it felt like we were standing in a quiet pocket. "You are standing in the corner," she said. "Best vantage point," I said. "I can see everything from here." "I do not want you in the corner," she said. "I want you next to me." "Joe," I warned, "if we stand together on that floor, people will talk. The scandal may be dead, but gossip never is." She lifted her chin. "Let them talk," she said. Then, right there in front of people who hired her and people who tried to beat her, she reached out and took my hand. Not a quick brush. Not a secret tug. She laced our fingers together like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I told the board today we are updating our cybersecurity policy," she said lightly. "I also told them I hired an exclusive consultant to handle all high-priority assets. Permanently." "Permanently," I repeated, thumb brushing across her knuckles. "So he is not allowed to work for anyone else." "Exactly," she said. "He is mine." The word landed in my chest like a key turning. "That sounds like a hard contract," I said. "High risk." "High reward," she answered. I squeezed her hand. "I will sign it," I said. We did not stay at the gala until the end. She made a graceful exit, handed off duties to her team, and pulled me out into the cool night air. We did not go to her place or mine. We went to the precinct. It was not romantic. The chairs were plastic. The lights were harsh. The floor smelled like coffee and cleaner, but it was necessary. We sat side by side in a small office while a detective scrolled through the files I had brought. Packet logs, screenshots, the recorded call, the blind item printout, the restraining order. Josephine read every page before she signed. Her hand did not shake this time. When she pushed the clipboard back to the detective, it felt like the final click of a door locking shut on the past. "That is it," he said. "We will keep you updated." We stepped out of the station into the cool night. The rain had stopped hours ago. The city smelled cleaner, like wet concrete and fresh air. I waited by the curb, hands in my pockets. She walked toward me, heels clicking against the sidewalk. She did not look back at the building. "Done?" I asked. "Done," she said. She moved closer, sliding her hands up my chest until she could feel my heartbeat through the thin dress shirt under the tux jacket. Her eyes searched my face in the yellow glow of the streetlight. "You kept your promise," she said. "You kept my secret safe." "I said I would," I answered. She took a slow breath. When she spoke again, her voice dropped to that low, husky tone that always made the rest of the world fade out. "I have a new secret," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." "I am in love with my brother's best friend," she whispered. "And I do not care who knows it." The words hit me harder than any threat Darian ever gave. They were simple. They were clear. They were everything. I did not answer with another promise. I answered by pulling her closer, right there on the sidewalk. Cars rolled past. A cab honked in the distance. Somewhere, a siren wailed. None of it mattered. I dipped my head and kissed her under the street lamp. I did not scan for exits. I did not count cameras. I did not think about risk. For once, I was not protecting a system. I was choosing a person. When we finally pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, her fingers twisted in my lapels. "That is one secret," I said softly. "I am terrible at keeping." She laughed, that true soft laugh, and stayed pressed against me like she had finally found a place to rest. "People think safety is about walls and passwords and locks. I build those things. I know how important they are. But the strongest security I have ever seen was not in code or steel or encryption. It was in a person choosing to stand in front of you when you are exposed. Someone who sees the parts you are ashamed of, the panic, the late-night fear, the old mistakes, and does not walk away. If you have to perform to keep someone, your heart never really logs in. If you can break down and they still look at you like you are the win, That is the only signal that matters in all the noise. Josephine stepped closer to me that first night in the hallway and said, "I promise to keep our secret safe." In the end, that secret was not just about files and threats. It was about us,